Okay, I didn't have a video for this one. I'm making it now. You are pretty smart. I'm not going to say names. I don't mention names on camera, but the person who needed the video, you are pretty sharp. So I'm only going to do like 3 examples here, okay? I think you should be able to get by. So 16x to the second plus 18x plus 5. So there's 2 answers. And you also have an x that isn't to the second, so you have to set your equation at 0. It already is. And the first thing I do is look for a greatest common factor. Okay, that's first step. Okay, I'm going to make a little box for that too, so I don't get it caught in with the other box. So you don't have a x on everything. Okay, 5 doesn't have x, so we're not putting x here. And then 16, 18, 5. If you know the GCF, you can write it in. If not, you take the smallest of the numbers, 5, and 5 divided by 1 is 5. 5 divided by 2 is a decimal. 5 divided by 3 is 5. 5 divided by 4 is 5. Then I'm back to 5. Well, these aren't all 3 going to divide by 5, so that leaves me with just 1, so that's a waste. It's good to look for it, though. Good to get in the habit. So then I make the table, because I know I have 3 terms. And I always take the A times the C. So positive 16 times positive 5 is 80. Now I got positive 80, so that tells me I need to be adding to try to make the middle, which is 18. 18 is positive, okay? So 1 and 80, no, that does not make 18. 80 divided by 2 is 40. Nope. 80 divided by 3 is a decimal. 80 divided by 4 is 20. That's, no. 80 divided by 5 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21, so you can feel yourself getting closer. 80 divided by 7 is a decimal. 80 divided by 8 is 10, and that gives me my adding to 18. So 18 being plus means 10's plus, and having a positive up there means the signs have to be the same. So plus 10 plus 8. Now, what's your A up there? 16x to the second. It's 16 now. So I can't just make 2 parentheses and say it's x plus 8, x plus 10, because x times x isn't 16x to the second. I mean, there's a lot of things. Don't write this down. But there's a lot of things I can do to get 16. I can take 1x times 16x. Okay? I can take 2x times 8x. I can take 4x times 4x. Now, only one of the combinations is correct, though. Okay? Now, it's difficult to know which one that actually is, so there's a trick. Okay? You make 2 lines of parentheses, and what you're going to do is you're going to start with 16x and 16x and plus 8 and plus 10. Now, we know inherently that this wouldn't be right, because 16 times 16 isn't 16, okay? And not only that, 8 times 10 is not going to be 5 either. Well, that's why you got to just trust the process. So what you do is divide the 16 and the 8 by its greatest common factor of the 2. So think of 8, okay? 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 3, no, and then 4. Now, I think 16 divides by 8, okay? So we want to divide these down by 8, and that's 2x plus 1. And then 16 and 10 are divided by their greatest common factor, okay? So 10. So 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and 3, 4 decimals, and I'm back to 5. Well, I can't divide 16 by 10. I can't divide 16 by 5. Well, you can, but you don't want decimals. You can divide them by 2, okay? So you're going to divide by 2, and that's 8x plus 5. Okay, now I know this is right, because 2x times 8x is 16x to the second power, and I know 1 times 5 is 5, so that's looking more like it. Now again, this is still equal to 0. All I did was take this and write it in a different formation. So this is F1, this is F2. So 2x plus 1 equals 0, 8x plus 5 equals 0. So you're going to use that little trick with the 4 parentheses anytime your A is not a 1. Anytime a is something other than a 1, that's a trick that works every time. So 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 divided by 2 is a decimal, so I'm just going to put negative half. You're going to get negative 5. Negative 5 divided by 8 is a decimal, so negative 5/8. And you're going to see a lot of fraction answers here. Okay, I'm not doing that one. I'll do 3 more for you. Let's go to this one. You don't have to do all the examples. So there's 2 answers. So there's the x to the second. Okay, we also have this x that is not to, so basically it's set. So again, you got 3 terms. So my greatest common factor. Okay, once again, you don't put x there because 5's missing x. 8, 6, and 5, it'd be 5. 5 is a prime number. It's just 1 and 5. You can't divide all these by 5, obviously, which leaves you with 1, which means we ain't doing it. Okay. Okay, so 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. So you got a negative now. So now it's a minus to try to get to 6. 1 and 40, nope. 2 and 20, nope, that's 18. 3 is a decimal, 4 and 10, yep. 6 is negative, that means the higher factor should be negative. We have a negative up top, so the signs have to be the opposite now. Okay, now my a is not a 1x to the second. So again, you can't just say that x times x, because x times x is not 8x to the second. There's no way that could possibly be. So to pull this little trick, you're going to make 2 lines of parentheses, and you're going to start with an 8 in front of each of your x's. And once again, that can't be right here because 8 times 8 is 64, and I don't have that. 4 times negative 10 is negative 40, and that's not what I have there. Well, that's why if you divide these both down by their GCF, you will end up with the right thing. It works every time. Okay, so 4. If you know the GCF, just divide by it, okay? You're fairly intelligent. I think you might know a lot of them. 1 and 4, 2 and 2. You can divide by 4. That's 2x plus 1. You don't ask a lot of questions, which is okay. So I don't really know if you know them in your head or not. Okay, 8 and 10. So 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Divide by 8 doesn't work. Divide by 4. 10 is not divisible by 4. They're both divisible by 2 then. So it's 4x minus 5. Now to check if it's right, you can say, okay, what's 2 times 4x? That'd be 8x second. And what's 1 times negative 5? That'd be negative 5. Good indication that that's correct then. If you multiply this times this and it's not this, or this times this and it's not this, then something's amiss. 2x plus 1 equals 0. 4x minus 5 equals 0. You're going to get negative 1. When you divide negative 1 by 2, it's a decimal, so we're just going to keep it negative 1/2. So 4x equals 5. That's 5 over 4. I'll just do one more. I think you'll be okay. I'm going to do this one. This one's kind of a pain. Okay. You don't know how many answers there are until you get rid of the parentheses, okay? So you can't, I'd be saying, oh, there's this many. So what we do is we simply distribute, okay? That's a negative 3. So 1 times 20 is 20, but then x times x is x to the second. And then 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, and then x, okay? And then you're equal to 3. Okay, so the parentheses is gone. Now I can tell we probably got 2 answers to this. Okay, you have here, and that's not to the second, so you're not set. Okay, so you need to subtract that 3, and you can't take 3 from 20x to the second or 3x. Okay. Okay, so now my equation states that 20x to the second minus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0, and now I can rock and roll. Okay, so greatest common factor. I make a box for it usually. Okay, you don't have x on all three of them. Okay, so that's not going to work. What the heck? Yeah, this problem is not going to work because I will never get my t-chart to be what it needs to be. Okay. Okay, so basically, I'll just pick another one to do. Let's go this one. Okay. So there's two answers. You're set. Okay, so that's three terms. See what the greatest common factor is of the three. X can't go here because 15's missing X. 2, 11, and 5. Well, let's look at 2. All the factors are 1 and 2. You can't divide all these by, all these are not divisible by 2. And if it's 1, we're just not going to do it. Okay, so positive 2 times positive 5 is positive 10. So this would be an add problem to try to make 11. It doesn't take long. 1 and 10, that's 11. 11's negative, so 10 has to be negative. And when I have a positive up here, the signs have to be identical. So if we already know that that's minus, we'd have to make that minus. Now, a is 2x to the second power. Okay, now some people are like, well, I know that's 1x times 2x. Yeah, no, you don't, because it could be 2x times 1x too. Okay, you don't know. So if you don't have an 1, you want to make 4 parentheses. Okay, so I lead off with 2, and then I put 2x, 2x, and then minus 1, minus 10. Okay, now this one here, if 1 is one of the numbers in here, you're not going to divide it. You're just going to leave it the way it is. Cross out that top one. Then 2 and 10 have a GCF of 2. Okay, so that becomes 1x or x minus 5. Okay, now remember these still equal 0. All you did was write it in a different form. So that's f1, f2. So 2x minus 1 equals 0. 1x minus 5 could equal 0. Divide by 2, you end up with 1/2. And 1x equals 5, so 5. Okay, now I'm going to start you on one of these. 1 through 6 is pretty easy. Number 7's not set. You'll need to minus 5 up here. You can't do it from those. I'm going to help you set up this one again because the one I had in the examples kind of went bad. Okay, so you don't know how many answers till the parentheses have been multiplied. So 1 times 3 is 3x to the second. 1x times 14 would be 14x. Then equals 5. Okay, now you know there's 2 answers, but you're not set. You'll have to subtract the 5 and go from there. None of these have the GCF's always 1, so if you want to go straight to your table, you can do that too. But you'll need to make 4 parentheses down there after you figure it out because the A on these is never 1. It's always some number. And you'll just put that number in front of each of your X's and then divide 2 at a time by the GCF.